The arena was larger than any city ever built by humans. It stretched across the horizon like a metal ocean glowing under a cold, artificial sky. Thousands of lights hovered above, creating a sharp white glow that made every movement clear. Every breath, every step, every mistake could be seen by millions watching from across different worlds. The crowd was not human. Tall armored giants stood beside creatures made of light. Some had wings, some had scales, and some did not even have a fixed shape. Voices echoed in strange tones, mixing excitement with hunger. Today was not just another fight. Today was a judgment. At the center of the arena stood a massive circular platform, made of dark alloy. It carried marks from countless battles, scars burned into its surface from weapons, powers, and rage. A loud horn echoed. The gates on one side opened slowly. She stepped in, the alien champion. She was tall and powerful. Her armor shimmered like liquid silver. Her eyes glowed with a sharp blue light. Full of confidence and control, every step she took carried strength. She had never lost. The crowd roared her name. She raised her hand slightly, and the noise softened. She did not need to shout. Her presence alone demanded attention. Her voice came out calm but sharp. So this is the challenger. She looked toward the opposite gate. Her lips curved into a small smile, not of kindness, but of amusement. I was told a human would fight me. Some in the crowd laughed. Others made mocking sounds. Humans. Weak, fragile, short-lived. She shook her head slowly. They send one of their kind to face me. This is not a fight. This is a joke. The crowd responded with louder laughter. The idea of a human standing in this arena felt like an insult. Then the second gate opened. At first nothing happened. No dramatic entrance, no energy blast, no roar. Just silence. Then a single figure walked in, a human. He wore simple dark clothing, no heavy armor, no glowing weapons, no symbols of power. His steps were steady, calm, and quiet. He did not rush. He did not look around. He simply walked to the center and stopped. The crowd grew confused. Some leaned forward, trying to understand. Was this really the fighter? The alien champion looked at him carefully, then laughed softly. This is it. She took a step closer, circling him slowly. You look smaller than I expected. No reaction. The human stood still, his face calm, his eyes focused, but not angry. She continued, do you even understand where you are? Still no answer. The silence from him started to feel strange. Not fear, not weakness, something else. The champion narrowed her eyes. Speak, human. Are you afraid? The human finally lifted his gaze slightly and looked at her. His voice was quiet but clear. No, just one word. Simple and calm. The crowd reacted with mixed sounds. Some laughed again, thinking it was foolish courage. Others felt something they could not explain. The champion smirked. Confidence without power is dangerous. She stepped closer until she stood right in front of him. You should have stayed on your small world. This place is not for your kind. She turned her back to him for a moment, as if already bored. I will end this quickly. The arena lights dimmed slightly, then focused brighter on the platform. The signal for battle was near. The human slowly adjusted his stance, not dramatic, not aggressive, just ready. High above the arena, a voice echoed. Fight begins in 10. The crowd grew louder again. 9. The champion stretched her arms, energy forming around her fingers. 8. She looked over her shoulder at the human. Last chance to walk away. 7. He did not move. 6. His breathing remained steady. 5. Something about him felt wrong. Not weak, not afraid, just still. 4. The champion frowned slightly. For the first time. 3. The air around them became heavy. 2. The human shifted his foot slightly. 1. Silence. Then the signal flashed. The champion moved first, fast, powerful, unstoppable. She rushed forward with a strike meant to end the fight instantly. But just before her attack reached him, the human moved, not fast, not slow, just enough. Her attack missed. A shock passed through her eyes. Impossible, the crowd gasped. The human stepped back into position, calm again, like nothing had happened. He looked at her once more, still quiet, still focused, and in that moment, for the first time, the champion did not smile. Far above, in the hidden sections of the arena, some watchers leaned forward with interest. They knew something the crowd did not one of. Them spoke in a low voice, so he finally stepped into the arena. Another replied, "Yes, the Realm Breaker." Back on the battlefield, the champion straightened, herself trying to hide the small crack in her confidence. She spoke again, but this time her voice was sharper. That was luck. The human said nothing, but something had changed. The fight had not even begun, and yet the balance was already shifting. The arena did not return to noise right away. For a brief moment, everything felt frozen. The alien champion stood still, her arm slightly extended from the missed strike. Her eyes locked on the human, trying to understand what had just happened. That strike never missed, not in hundreds of battles, not against warriors far stronger than this quiet human. But he had moved not with speed that could be seen, not with power that could be felt. He had simply not been there when the attack arrived. A low murmur slowly spread through the crowd. Confusion replaced laughter. The champion slowly pulled her arm back. Her fingers tightened for a second, then relaxed. She forced a small smile, but it no longer carried this same confidence. Interesting. She stepped to the side, beginning to circle him again. But this time her movements were more careful, more measured. "You dodge." She tilted her head slightly, studying him. Most cannot even see that attack. The human remained silent. His eyes followed her calmly, his posture unchanged. No pride, no fear, no reaction. That silence started to feel heavy. Champion stopped circling. She did not like it. Silence meant control, and control was something she respected. But this was a human. It did not make sense. The crowd slowly grew louder again. Some tried to laugh again, but it sounded forced. Others leaned forward, watching closely. The champion lifted her hand again. Energy began to gather on her fingers, brighter this time, sharper. "Let us try again." This time she did not rush. She vanished, a blur of motion cutting through the air faster than before. She reappeared behind him, her strike already on its way, aiming directly for his back. A clean hit, a guaranteed end. But again, nothing. The human stepped forward at the exact moment. Her attack passed through the space he had just occupied. No wasted movement, no panic, just perfect timing. The champion's eyes widened for a split second. She turned quickly, launching another strike, then another, each one faster than the last, left, right, above. Each attack precise, deadly, unstoppable, and yet none of them landed. The human kept moving in small, controlled steps, every motion minimal, every dodge just enough. It looked effortless. The crowd fell into silence again. This was no longer funny. This was wrong. One of the winged spectators whispered. "He is not even fighting," another replied quietly. "No, he is watching." Back in the arena, the champion stepped back, creating distance. Her breathing was still controlled, but her mind was racing. This was not normal. She had faced warriors with speed, warriors with strength, warriors with strange abilities, but this felt different. The human was not reacting late. He was moving before the attack existed. Her eyes narrowed. "What are you?" The human looked at her again. His answer came calm and simple. "A fighter." The crowd reacted again, some confused, some frustrated. The champion let out a short laugh, but there was no humor in it. "A fighter." She shook her head slowly. "No, you are hiding something." She raised both hands this time. Energy surged around her body, brighter, stronger. The air around her began to shake slightly. If speed is not enough, then power will be. The ground beneath her feet cracked slightly as she released more force. The arena lights flickered, reacting to the sudden rise in energy. Now the crowd felt it. Now they understood. She was no longer playing. The human stood in front of her, unchanged, still calm, still silent, still watching. The energy wave rushed toward him, fast and wide, impossible to dodge completely. For the first time he moved differently. Not just a step, not just a shift. He raised his hand. The energy wave reached him and split, divided cleanly around his body, as if something invisible stood in its path. The force passed behind him, striking the arena walls, leaving deep marks, and the metal gasps filled the stadium. The champion froze for a moment. That was not a dodge, that was control. Her voice dropped lower. "That is not human." The human lowered his hand slowly. His eyes remained on her, steady and focused. Then for the first time he took a step forward, not to escape, not to defend, but to approach. The sound of his step echoed louder than expected. One step and something changed again. The air grew heavier, not from energy but from presence. Champion felt it clearly, now a pressure she had never felt before, small, but deep, like standing at the edge of something endless. She instinctively stepped back, just one step, but it was enough. The crowd noticed. The undefeated champion had moved back, without being attacked. High above the arena, the hidden watchers remained silent, but their attention sharpened. One of them spoke quietly. "He is done observing." Another answered, "Yes, now it begins." Back below, the human stopped after that single step. He did not rush. He did not attack. He simply looked at her. Then he spoke. "Are you done?" The same calm voice, the same simple tone. But now it carried weight. The champion clenched her fists. Anger rose inside her, mixing with something unfamiliar. Not fear, not yet, but close. She forced herself forward again, gathering everything she had. This time she would not miss. This time she would break him. But deep inside, a small thought appeared. What if he was not the one being tested? And as the arena lights burned brighter and the next clash prepared to begin, truth slowly moved closer, unseen, unstoppable. Asterisk. Before the next strike could begin, a sound echoed, not from the crowd, not from the champion, from the floor. A soft crack. The ground beneath the human's foot had fractured, just slightly, but enough. The champion noticed it instantly. Her eyes locked onto the mark that should not happen. He was not releasing energy. He was not striking. He was not even moving fast, and yet the arena itself had reacted to him. For the first time since the fight began, a thin line of doubt crossed her mind. She pushed it away. Oh, impossible. She tightened her stance. This ends now. Her body flared with power again, but this time it was different, more focused, more dangerous. The air around her began to bend slightly as she compressed her strength into a single point, a finishing move, the kind that left nothing behind. The crowd felt it and leaned forward, some in excitement, some in fear. Even the distant watchers grew still. This was no longer a test. This was execution. Champion vanished once more, but this time even the air screamed. Her speed broke the sound barrier inside the arena. A shockwave followed her movement, tearing across the platform. She appeared directly in front of him, her fist glowing with condensed energy, aimed straight at his chest. No space to dodge, no time to react. A perfect strike, and for the first time the human did not move away. He stepped in closer into the attack. The moment stretched. The crowd held its breath. Impact. A deep, heavy sound rolled across the arena, but not the one they expected. The champion's strike had landed, but not on flesh. Her fist had stopped against his hand. He had caught it cleanly. Struggle, no shaking, no damage, just stopped. The shockwave from the impact exploded outward, shaking the arena walls. Lights flickered and distant structures rattled under the force. But at the center he stood still, holding her power like it meant nothing. The champion's eyes widened. That attack had ended battles, crushed armor, broken champions, and now it was being held by a human. Her voice came out low, almost a whisper. "What are youth?" Human looked at her hand, then back at her, his expression unchanged, calm. Then slowly he tightened his grip, a small movement, but the effect was immediate. Cracks of pressure formed around her arm. Her energy flickered, unstable. For the first time pain flashed across her face. She tried to pull back, but she could not. It felt like her strength had no weight anymore, like it had been taken away. The crowd erupted into chaos. This was no longer a fight, they understood. Some shouted. Some stood in silence. Some could not even react. High above, one of the hidden watchers spoke again. "He is revealing it." Another replied, "Only a fraction." Back in the arena, the human released her hand suddenly. She stumbled back a step, catching her balance quickly. But the damage was done, not to her body, to her certainty. She had felt it. In that brief moment she had felt the difference between them, and it was not small, it was endless. Her breathing changed slightly now, deeper, more focused. She raised her guard again, but this time there was no arrogance left, only caution, only awareness. The human did not follow, he stayed where He was watching, waiting, as if giving her time. That made it worse. You are holding back. She said it clearly now, no mockery, no pride, just truth. The human did not answer, but he did not deny it either. That silence confirmed everything. The champion felt something new rise inside her, not anger, not confidence, fear, small but real. She pushed forward again, refusing to accept it. She attacked with everything she had left, combining speed, strength, and precision. Her strikes came like a storm, each one capable of ending the fight, and for the first time the human responded, not by dodging, not by blocking, but by moving through her attacks. Each step perfectly placed, each motion effortless. He was no longer avoiding. He was controlling the space, the timing, the fight itself. It became clear this was not a battle. This was a demonstration. Crowds saw it. They felt it. The shift was complete. The human was not surviving, was allowing a final strike. Came from the champion, desperate, powerful, everything she had left. The human stepped forward again, and this time he struck back. A single motion, too fast to follow, too precise to understand. A shockwave burst outward. Champion froze, her body locked in place, her eyes wide. Then slowly she fell to one knee. The arena went silent. No cheers, no sound, only the echo of what had just happened. The human lowered his hand, calm again, unchanged. He looked at her without anger, without pride. Then he spoke. You are strong. A pause, but not enough. Words were simple, but they carried weight, heavier than any attack. The champion lowered her head slightly, her breath unsteady. For the first time in her life, she understood she was not the strongest here, and somewhere deep within the arena system, something ancient awakened, a hidden protocol, a name long buried, now active again. Realm breaker detected, and above the watchers did not speak this time, because now they knew the story had just changed completely. Asterisk. The arena did not recover from silence. It sank deeper into it. Even the air felt heavier now, as if the space itself had stopped trusting what it just witnessed. The alien champion was still on one knee. Breathing was controlled, but uneven. Her eyes no longer carried pride. They carried calculation now, searching, replaying, understanding. Every instinct she had built over thousands of battles was breaking piece by piece, because nothing in her experience explained what just happened. A single strike, no energy explosion, no dramatic movement, and yet her body had obeyed it like law. The human stood a few steps away, still calm, still unchanged, like the fight had not even begun for him. The crowd slowly began to shift from shock to fear, not fear of violence, fear of meaning, because now they understood this was not a duel. This was not even a contest. It was something else. The champion slowly rose to her feet again, not with confidence, but with caution. Her voice came out quieter than before. You did not use your full power. It was not a question. It was an observation she did not want to accept. Human looked at her for a moment. He said nothing. Then he answered simply, no. That single word hit harder than any strike, because it confirmed what she feared. He had been holding back the entire time. The arena lights flickered slightly as the system tried to stabilize readings. It could no longer understand energy. Readings from the human were still almost nothing, and yet everything reacted to him. Champion clenched her fists again, this time slower, more careful. Show me. Her voice carried something different, not arrogance, not challenge, but need, the need to understand what she was facing. The human tilted his head slightly, as but need, that need to understand what she was facing. If considering, then he took a breath, and for the first time something changed. It was not visible at first. Flash, no explosion, no sound, just stillness, absolute stillness. Then the pressure came, not like energy, not like force, but like existence itself had shifted its attention. Air around the human began to distort slightly, not breaking, not burning, just bending. Crowd felt it instantly, a weight pressing down on their thoughts, making it harder to breathe normally. Some stepped back without realizing why. The champion felt it the strongest. Her instincts screamed danger, not from an attack, from presence. Her eyes widened slightly. This is not possible, she whispered it without meaning to the human's gaze lifted just a little, and the pressure increased. Arena floor cracked in thin lines, spreading outward in perfect patterns, as if responding to something unseen. Asterisk, still no movement from him, still no attack, just being, and that was enough. The champion raised both hands quickly, forming layered defenses. Energy shields stacking around her like walls of light, every defense she had activated. At once the crowd watched in shock. Their undefeated champion was preparing. Like she faced extinction, the human finally moved one step forward. That was all. The moment his foot touched the ground, every shield around the champion flickered, then weakened, then failed, not shattered. Asterisk. Not broken, just dismissed as if they had never mattered her. Eyes widened in pure disbelief. She had never seen defenses fail without contact. The human continued walking, slow, steady, calm, each step echoing louder than it should. The arena system began to fail, reading his presence correctly. Warnings flashed in distant control rooms. UNK on OW and classification detected reality. Anomaly level RICNG, but no one stopped the fight. No one could. Champion tried to move again, launching the controlled strike, this time not relying on power but precision, her fastest form, her best technique. She appeared in front of him, instantly striking at multiple points, aiming to disable joints, pressure points, balance, perfect execution. But he was already behind her. She froze, not because she stopped, but because she realized she had missed something fundamental. He had not dodged. Asterisk. He had not moved after. He had moved before, as if her action had already happened in his perception. Slowly she turned. Her expression no longer carried pride or aggression, only understanding forming. Too late. You are not reacting, she said quietly. You are deciding. The human looked at her, and for the first time there was something in his eyes. Not emotion, not anger, not kindness. Just certainty. Yes. The answer was simple. The champion stepped back instinctively. Asterisk. That single word carried more weight than everything she had ever done, because it confirmed the truth she did not want. He was not adapting to her strength. She was being allowed to exist within his control above the arena. Asterisk. Deep systems that had not been active for centuries began to wake fully. A sealed classification opened across multiple realms. A forgotten record surfaced. Realm breaker protocol active, and in that moment, asterisk, every being watching from every world understood the same thing. This was not a fight that had started today. It had already been decided long ago. The arena was no longer a place of battle. It had become a place of realization. Every living being inside it felt the same growing pressure in their mind, not from force, but from understanding that arrived too late. The alien champion stood motionless. For a moment, her breathing steady but different, now controlled, not like a warrior ready to attack, but like someone trying to hold herself together after seeing something impossible. Human remained calm in front of her, still not moving, still not showing anything beyond quiet presence. But now that silence felt heavier than any attack, because she had started to notice something she missed before. It was not his strength that defined him. It was the absence of struggle. Every opponent she had ever faced fought against limits. He did not seem to have them. The crowd was no longer loud. Even the ones who had mocked before were silent. Now, not out of respect, out of confusion mixed with fear. High above the arena, hidden systems continued to activate. Ancient data streams that had not been accessed in generations began to decode themselves. A name appeared across sealed records. Not a title given by one world, but a warning used across many. Realm breaker. The champion saw the name appear on a distant floating display above the arena edge. Her eyes narrowed slightly. So it is real. Her voice was low now, not mocking, not challenging, but careful. Human tilted his head slightly as if he heard her, but chose not to respond. The arena lights dimmed again as deeper systems engaged. A projection formed in the air above the battlefield. Fragments of forgotten history, images of collapsed battlefields, broken armies, and one figure standing in every recorded incident. Always the same presence, always undefined, always ending conflict without explanation. The champion's grip on reality began to shift. She whispered, "You are not a fighter." The human finally spoke again. Still calm, still simple. Pause. What happens after the fight? The question was not loud, but it landed heavily. because it was not about victory, it was about consequence. Champion's expression tightened for the first time. She looked away slightly, thinking not as a warrior, but as something closer to a person trying to understand. Scale, what do you mean, the human looked at the arena floor for a moment, then back at her. If I use everything, there will be nothing left to fight. The words were quiet, almost gentle, but the meaning behind them was not. The crowd reacted with silence again, because now they understood. Was not afraid to lose, he was limiting himself to prevent something worse. The champion took a slow breath. Her pride was gone now, but something else replaced it. Curiosity mixed with fear. Then show me this. Time. It was not a demand, it was acceptance, a request from someone who had already realized she was standing far beyond her level. The human looked at her for a moment, then he nodded once. The air changed. Immediately, not violently, not suddenly, but completely. It was as if the space itself recognized permission. Had been given. The ground beneath him darkened slightly, patterns forming like cracks in reality rather than stone. Champion stepped back instinctively, but stopped herself. She forced her feet to stay planted. If she moved now, she would never understand, and she needed to understand. The human raised his hand slowly. The motion was simple, no energy buildup, no dramatic glow, just intent. The arena system screamed warnings across every channel. UNSTABLE reality shift. Detected. Contained failure. IMINENT. But there was nothing to contain, because nothing had been released yet. The champion felt it first. Not power, not force, but possibility, as if every outcome of the fight was suddenly visible at once. Every version of her attack failing, every version of her winning, and every version ending the same way, with him still standing. Her breathing changed slightly. This is not combat, she whispered. Human answered without looking away. No, it is restraint. The word hit harder than any strike, because it meant everything she had seen so far was not even close to what he could do. The champion slowly lowered her arms, not in defeat, but in acknowledgement. There was no path where she could win this through force, only through understanding, and she had finally accepted that above them. The ancient systems locked onto full confirmation. RELM breaker, classification verifiable observers, ADVICD, and in that moment, the arena was no longer watching the fight, it was watching the edge of something far beyond it. Asterisk. The moment the system confirmed the classification, the entire arena changed its behavior, not physically at first, but structurally. Every light, every projection, every hidden observer feed shifted focus onto the human, as if the universe itself had decided to stop treating him as a participant and start treating him as a phenomenon. The alien champion felt that shift most clearly, because for the first time in her life, she was no longer the center of danger. She was standing next to it. She slowly raised her head. Her stance was still strong, but no longer aggressive. There was no attack forming in her body anymore, only awareness. The human stood in front of her unchanged, still calm, still quiet, but the air around him was no longer normal. It was layered, as if multiple realities were overlapping in small controlled fragments around his presence. The champion spoke softly. If you can end everything, why are you still standing here? The question was no longer prideful, it was genuine. The human looked at her for a moment before answering. Because ending is easy. The answer was simple, too simple for something so heavy. The crowd did not move. No one laughed anymore. No one doubted anymore. They were listening now, like history was being written in front of them. The champion tightened her fists slightly again, but not in challenge, in confusion. Then what are you doing? The human took a slow step forward. The arena did not react this time. It already understood his movement was not an attack trigger. It was intention. I am limiting, he said. The champion frowned slightly, limiting what? The human looked at her directly now. Everything. A silence deeper than before spread across the arena, because that answer did not explain, it revealed scale. The champion's mind tried to process it. Everything she understood about power, strength, and hierarchy began to collapse into one uncomfortable thought. She was not facing a stronger opponent. She was facing something that had already chosen how weak it would be. She spoke carefully. Now if you are limiting everything, what happens if you stop for the first time? A pause. The human did not answer immediately. Instead, the air around him shifted again, subtly like a door slightly opening into something far larger than the arena. Could hold the champion instinctively stepped back one pace before stopping herself again. She noticed it. That was not fear. That was instinct reacting to distance from reality itself. The human finally spoke. Then there is no arena. The words were quiet, but they removed all illusion of safety. The champion's eyes narrowed. You would destroy this place. The human shook his head once. No. A pause. There would be nothing to measure it. That was worse, because destruction still left something behind. He was talking about removal of meaning itself. The arena systems began stabilizing in reverse, now as if trying to undo its own curiosity. Warnings faded, not because danger was gone, but because comprehension failed. The champion slowly exhaled. For the first time she lowered her guard completely, not as surrender, but as acknowledgement that fighting no longer applied. Then show me your limit, she said quietly. No challenge, no arrogance, just need for truth. The human looked at her for a long moment. Then he moved, but not toward attack, not toward defense. He stepped sideways and the space beside him reacted. The air folded slightly, not breaking, not collapsing, but aligning as if reality itself adjusted to his decision. The champion's eyes widened. That was not energy, that was structure. She whispered, you are not using power. You are rewriting interaction. The human did not deny it. He raised his hand slightly again, and for a fraction of a second, the arena saw something it was not built to. Perceive not destruction, not creation, but choice. Every possible outcome of the fight appeared faintly across the space like overlapping shadows of reality. And then they vanished. The human lowered his hand. The champion stood frozen, her voice barely audible. Now, if you fight seriously, no one survives, the human replied simply. That is why I do not. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the system stopped reporting for a moment, because there was nothing left to classify properly. Only one conclusion remained across every observing mind. They were not watching strength. They were watching restraint, preventing existence from changing shape. And for the first time, the champion understood. Winning was never the question. Surviving the truth was. The arena did not feel like an arena anymore. It felt like a boundary, a thin constructed space placed between normal existence and something that should never be observed too closely. Every observer inside it had stopped thinking about victory or defeat. Those ideas no longer had weight. Even the alien champion had reached a state beyond combat thinking. She stood quietly now. No stance, no preparation, just presence. Her armor still glowed faintly, but it looked less like protection and more like decoration on something that no longer needed it. The human stood in front of her, as always calm and unchanged, but now even calm felt like an incomplete word, because there was something underneath it that no language in the arena could fully describe. Stillness that did not belong to time. The champion finally spoke, not loudly, not proudly, just honestly. If you wanted this to end, you could have done it already. The human looked at her. For a moment he did not answer. The silence between them felt larger than the arena itself. Then he replied, it already ended. The words did not make sense at first. The champion frowned slightly. What do you mean? The human slowly turned his gaze toward the open space of the arena, as if looking beyond it, not at walls, not at spectators, but at something further. When I stepped in, I chose the limit. A pause. Everything after that was just distance. The champion's eyes slowly widened. She understood, but not fully. Her voice lowered. So this entire fight was never a real fight. The human answered, it was containment. The words settled heavily across the arena. Containment, not battle, not contest, control of outcome itself. The crowd remained silent, but their minds were no longer in confusion. They were in realization. Every moment they had watched, every attack, every dodge, every strike. had been allowed to happen within boundaries, they could not see the champion slowly lowered her head. For the first time, not in defeat, but in acceptance of. Scale, then what are you? She asked quietly, not as a warrior anymore, but as someone trying to place something beyond understanding into words. The human paused, a long moment passed. Then he answered a correction that was all no title, no grand explanation. Just a function. The champion closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them again, something had changed, not her strength, but her perspective. She finally spoke again. If you are a correction, what were you correcting here? The human looked at the arena. Around them, then at her. He answered simply, expectation. The word landed softly but deeply because it explained everything: why she was chosen, why this arena existed, why thousands of worlds were watching, not to see who would win, but to see what would happen when expectation met reality above them. The ancient systems that had fully awakened began to shut down slowly, not because they were damaged, but because their purpose had been completed. Final status: confirmed realm breaker presence. Stable nitrogen monoxide. Threat detected. The champion heard the message and gave a small bitter smile. Not at him, at herself. So I was never meant to defeat you. The human shook his head slightly. No, you were meant to understand. That was worse, because understanding could not be undone. The champion took one slow breath, then straightened, not into battle stance, but into respect. If this was a lesson, then I have learned it. The human looked at her for a moment, then gave a single small nod. The arena lights began to dim slowly as systems returned in neutral state. The spectators remained silent even as the display faded, because no one wanted to be the first to break what they had just witnessed. The champion finally turned away, not defeated, not destroyed, but changed. As she reached the edge of the arena, she stopped for a moment. Without looking back, she spoke one last time. Will we ever face you again? The human replied. Only if needed. That was enough. She walked out, and the arena did not cheer it, did not celebrate. It simply remained quiet, because deep inside every mind present, one truth had settled permanently. They had not seen the strongest warrior. They had seen the limit of what strength meant, and beyond that limit, there was only the realm breaker.